Go.
All right, so we are here with another installment of the McEnulty Method, and we have Frank McEnulty sharing his wisdom with us. We've been talking about spending less than you earn so that you can get on the road to financial freedom. And tonight, Frank has some tips for us, as always. So, Frank, why don't you get us started?
First thing you should do is buy a video camera that actually works.
You know, I don't know. That might just be a waste of money.
It could be, because well, hopefully it'll stay on now. So yeah, it sounds simple, right? Spend less than you make. That's what everybody says. That's the easy way to save money. Just spend less than you make. But as we could see from most people in the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, they all seem to be able to spend as much or more than they make. So what's the issue? What's the problem? With somebody who's all of a sudden getting a huge amount of money, it's like, oh my God, I can never spend this money. It's far more than I've ever seen before. How could I ever spend it? But you can. And so I'd like to point this towards the people that are getting their first job, their first full-time real job, whether it's out of high school, out of college, where you're all of a sudden getting a regular paycheck, 40 hours a week, or monthly salary, and you feel richer than you've ever felt before. Because you had a part-time job, you're making money, but now all of a sudden, well, you're getting this check and it's got big numbers on it. And it's like, oh, I'm rich. I can spend. I can do all the things I wanted to do. But unfortunately, all the things you wanted to do are probably more than you're making. So how do we prevent that from happening in the beginning? And quite honestly, the easiest way is never to get all the money. If you're getting automatic deposit of your paycheck, like most people do, have a certain percent of it go into a savings account or an investment account through the company. That way you don't see it. So now, instead of, let's say you get $1,000 a week, you only get $900 a week going into your checking account. Now, and the $100 a week just sort of goes away. And it just goes into account, you don't see it, and so you don't get used to spending it.
Yeah, you can't spend what you don't have, and if you don't see it, it doesn't exist. So
right, because you don't see the balance in your checking accounts. Well, it's this big. I can spend this. No, it's only this big because there's this money over here. And that, to me, I've seen as the best way to make it happen. Initially, especially when you start this new job and start getting a lot more money than you've ever gotten before. What difference does it make if it's 100% more than you used to get or 110? Put the 10% away, save it. It'll start you on a really good path to build up, quite honestly, a huge nest egg over time.
I know a lot of folks like to, when they first get that real job or the full-time job, they see that check, they want to treat themselves. Now, is that okay?
Well, treat yourself. It depends on what you want to treat yourself with. It was funny this morning on the TV, they had a guy talking about the Bugatti. It's a $4 million car. But he was going beyond that to saying, how much would it cost for you to maintain the Bugatti if you drove it, actually bought it and drove it? And the maintenance costs over a 5-year period were going to be over $500,000. So sure, go out to a nice dinner, take your significant other out to a nice dinner, take your friends out to a nice dinner. Now, one-time things aren't going to destroy your spending habits. But if all of a sudden, because you got the good job, all your friends expect you to take them out to dinner every week. They expect you to pay. That becomes a real issue. There's all this guilt, well, I'm making more than they are. Well, so you need to save more than they are as well. But so yeah, what have you been putting off? Let's face it, you're going to work now, so it's not like you can go on a big trip. You don't have any vacation. Maybe you start saving up for that vacation. Some new clothes, possibly. You've been in college, you need to go to work, and we will be going back to work soon. So buy some clothes, something to make you feel good, but not something that's going to be so extravagant that it's just going to put you into debt. And now all of a sudden you're going to be paying for this thing that you treated yourself with for the next, year, 2 years, with a car, 5 years. It really does come down to what can you afford?
What is one of the ways or a nice method that, okay, you got your first job, that's the first big job. How do you determine what you can afford? You just go through all your monthly bills. What do you suggest?
Well, that's the first step. What do you have to pay every month? Now, if you're a student, it's probably pretty simple. You've got rent, you've got a phone bill, you've got a car insurance, maybe a car payment. So there. How much is that? Hopefully a new job is giving you more money than that. Maybe you want to move into an apartment, possibly by yourself or with one other person versus 3 or 4 people in a 2-bedroom, as you've been living in college. But it comes down to it's simple. There's not that many things. You're not talking about the budget for a company or anything else. It's a budget for your life. What is it going to cost you? What can you live? What do you feel you need to have to live? And what would be a luxury item?
So maybe you need Netflix to live, but you don't need a big cable hookup that's going to cost you $150 a month.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because my wife and I are actually going through that discussion right now, because I guess I finally saw what our cable bill is. And I'm embarrassed to say what it is, so I'm not going to. And we're not even getting premium channels or any of that stuff. We're not getting HBO or Showtime or whatever the other ones are. It's like, it's a lot of money. I mean, if we can't cut out all cable, theoretically, but we could take a trip every year on what we're paying for cable service. And so, yes, do we need that service by Verizon, or can we back off and just get basic internet and then get a Netflix for, what is it, $17 a month, and maybe a Hulu or a Disney added up? So now all of a sudden we're paying $30, $35 for TV on channel rather than the $150 we're paying now just for the TV. So yeah, that's a big difference. Over the course of a year, we're talking $1,200 difference between 50 and 150. It's a lot of money. And I think, we talked off screen about this. It comes down to, as I've mentioned before, I'm not a fan of Starbucks. I just don't understand it. One reason, I don't drink coffee. So it doesn't make sense to me. And it doesn't make sense to me to go there and spend money every day, because even if it was hot chocolate, they make good hot chocolate. But to me, it's a waste. But I guess to me, it's not a luxury I need. It's not a luxury I feel I have to have. And everybody needs their little luxuries. And if that's the luxury you need to make you feel good at the beginning of the day, to make you do better throughout the day, to have a better attitude, well, then all of a sudden, maybe that's a need. It's not a luxury. You need this to make you feel better, get through the day. Okay, so what else are you doing during the day on a regular basis that you don't need as much? You know, for instance, I'll go to lunch. It's hard anymore, unless you're going to a fast food chain, to get a lunch for much less. We trying to get food, a drink, leave a tip, $20 a day. Maybe it's okay, we'll go once a week instead of 5 days a week. Now all of a sudden you've saved $80 a week, and that's $4,000 a year. So it's just looking at all the little things that are habits and trying to cut out the habits that are more habits than things you actually need to spend money on.
So maybe really pay attention to your routine throughout the day. As you said, you start the day with Starbucks, then maybe going out to lunch, and where all these, if you look at the expenditures just by themselves, they might not seem like that much, but like you said, $20 for lunch over the course of a year, $4,000, that $4,000, that'd get your attention.
Yeah, you can take a heck of a trip with that money that you might remember more than the lunch you have every day. But once again, not trying to make people be antisocial because of their saving habits. I don't want to call it spending habits. I want to call it saving habits, because it's you're doing something positive for yourself. You're saving so that you have more options in the future because you have the money. And the other thing is, another way to save is pay cash. Pay cash for things. It's so easy to spend with a credit card. In fact, I believe that credit cards, when they first came out, were called convenience cards. And they were actually invented by the stores, the department stores, to get people to spend more money. Well, we'll give you credit. Oh, you don't have the money to buy both of those items. Don't worry, we'll take care of it, and you can make some easy payments. It's the convenience of credit cards that get people in trouble. And people that actually charge something on their credit card and pay the minimum balance each month end up paying for, depending on their card and the interest rate, paying for that item for the next 2 to 3 years at 15 to 18% interest. If I tried to charge you 15 to 18% interest, you could have me arrested for loan sharking. But since it's a credit card, it's okay. And that's, I think, the other way people really get themselves in trouble and subvert their ability to save is they run up credit cards really quick, because it's like, well, I'm making all this money, I can pay it off. And they don't. They make the minimum payments, and you're basically giving all your savings to the credit card company.
Mm-hmm.
What if you could earn 18% a year on your money?
No, and I agree with you. I think when you actually have to pull out cash to buy something, you just feel it more. So it's like there's a tendency to like, do I really need this? Maybe not. So it makes it easier to save as well.
Absolutely. I know I do. I try to pay with most things in cash, and people sort of make fun of me. Well, what are you carrying all that cash for? It's because I know when I spend something, I'm spending it. I also hate when I get my credit card bill at the end of the month. I'm like, oh, geez, what I spend $3,000 on? I have to go back and say, okay, what, most of the times it's business expenses. But and like I said, I think we're getting a new camera before this next one, Bill.
It's no longer a luxury, it's a need.
It's become a need. It's no longer a luxury item,
Well, so you've talked a little bit about taking a look at what your monthly bills are, the must pays, like a car insurance, maybe a car payment, maybe student loans, rent, phone, food. And you've talked a little bit about the luxury items, the Starbucks or maybe cable or whatever. Any other real practical area that you could look at and say, I mean, you mentioned going looking at your routine just to see what you're spending the money on. But any other real hard practical tips?
Well, there was interesting discussion on the radio the other night that somebody has done a study as to how much drunk buying is done in this country. I know it's very strange, but it was like the average. It's in the billions of dollars that people late at night buy stuff. Home Shopping Network or Amazon. It's so easy to buy things nowadays. And I think that's part of the problem. I've found that if you see something and you really want it and you think, oh, I got to have this, I got to have it, just mark it. See if you really got to have it the next day. You may not need to have it the next day. Something may have been going on in your life. It's just, oh, I was feeling bad. If I bought something, I'd feel better. And by the next day, it's like, what was I thinking? Why would I need that? You know, as Americans, and I know a lot of the younger people in the group, they don't have our stuff yet, right? We have stuff. We have so much stuff that our kids are going to think it's a burden when we give them all our stuff. And so do you really need more stuff? Well, we are not minimalists in this country.
No.
If you're thinking you're going to move in a little while or in a year or two, that's a good reason to put off purchases. You don't want to move it.
Absolutely. Then you're paying for it and paying to move it, and who knows? I mean, I know throughout my life,
yeah,
that couch and it just looks terrible in the joints. So get rid of it.
But saving really becomes a lifestyle. And I'm not talking about, you have these saving gurus and, you got to get coupons. Whenever somebody has something on sale, you go out and buy 300 of them because it's really cheap. Or you buy all your clothes at the Goodwill store because, hey, the stuff is fine and it's a lot cheaper. No, I'm just saying, cut out the things you really don't need. But even more, just make sure you put some money away every month for the future. That's the habit. And eventually you'll find that that's easy. It becomes like any habit, good, bad, or indifferent. If it's a habit, it becomes easy after a while. You don't have to think about it, and it's not a burden. And so that's really the key, is creating the habit of saving. And maybe set some goals. If I put money away in my savings account, when I get to $5,000, we can go out to a nice dinner, or we can go to Disneyland, or do something. And or the next $500 we save, we'll take a trip. We'll drive over the Grand Canyon. We'll do something. So that there's a reward for reaching the goal. There's a prize. So you 5,000, you get a prize. You get to 10,000, you get a prize. It makes it a game. Then it's like, oh, well, we have to get here so we can win our prize. And I know it sounds sort of goofy and funny, but after a while, it sort of becomes something you look forward to. You accomplished it. You actually earned the prize. You put the money away, you earned the prize. And so, I think that just makes it better.
No, I agree. And there's nothing better than looking at like your savings account and seeing it grow every month. And frankly, if you could find somebody that was interested in the same thing, it's like having somebody that you work out with. Like-minded people, you're both going after it. Pretty soon you're getting more results, even better, saving a little bit more each month, try to outdo each other.
Right.
I
And,
mean,
and it helps you determine what's really important to you, what really means something to you. 'Cause at the end of the day, having a 74-inch TV versus a 64-inch TV, other when your friends walk in the first time, you go, "Whoa, that's a big TV." Is that really going to make you feel better for a long time? Are you going to have any memories from your 74-inch TV versus, well, we saved up our money. Yeah, we've got a 50-inch TV. The horror. What did we have growing up, Bill? 24-inch, it. But hey, we took this trip, and oh, it's great. We got to do this, and we saw this, and we have pictures, and let's show you pictures until you run screaming away. But we have a memory. You develop memories. It gives you, I don't know. To me, memories are far more important than things, and you create memories by doing stuff, and you can do stuff by saving money.
you know what? That's a nice, simple equation. So,
I'm a pretty simple guy, so and, let's we go back to car. Let's talk about cars because it keeps popping up into my head. You get this new job, and you've always wanted the new car, and you've always wanted this, you've always wanted that. And as you know, I'm going to head over to Arizona to the Barrett-Jackson Auto Auction tomorrow. Now, granted, there's no cars on a Friday or Saturday at Barrett-Jackson that I could buy because they're all $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. Very nice collector's car, but I like looking. But it's funny, on Tuesday, the beginning of the auction, if I really wanted to have a Rolls Royce, if I really felt I needed a Rolls Royce, if I just really wanted a Rolls Royce, I could have bought a really nice looking Rolls Royce at the auction for $11,000 because that's what it sold for. Sure, it's not new, but it's a Rolls Royce if I had to have one. And I think the same for almost any car. It used to be if a car lasted to 100,000 miles, it was a miracle. Now, if a car doesn't go to 250,000 miles, there's something wrong with it. At 80 to 100,000 miles, or even 50 or 60, they're barely broken in. And I think one of the biggest ways to save is buy a car that's coming off of lease that somebody's driven for 3 years, probably won't have more than 30, 40,000 miles on it because most leases have a 12,000 mile limit per year on them. And so, but you get a really nice car. Sure, it's a couple, 3 years old, but you get it for a whole lot less than you buy a new one. And you keep it for a while. That's another way of saving. You're not spending money every year or every 3 years on a new lease. Yeah. You're actually building, this may sound strange, but you're building equity in your car because eventually you'll own it and you won't have to make payments. So it'll be, at that point, you have a free car versus your friends who are still making their $300 or $400 a month lease payments because they have to have a new car every 3 years. That, to me, that's never made sense. If I like a car, I drive it till the wheels fall off.
well, we don't have to go that far, but there is, I have to say, there's no better feeling in the world than all of a sudden realizing that you no longer have a car payment, that you own the thing.
Right. There's none of that ugly D word, debt.
Yeah.
So, I'm thinking maybe we should talk next time about debt because there is good debt and there's bad debt. And it's not the same for everybody. Student loans are good debt for some people. They're bad debt for others. Mortgages can be good or bad. Credit cards, almost always bad, but I think we should go into the reasons why and, which ones you should really try to work towards and which ones you should try to avoid as much as humanly possible.
Well, I would love to hear about it. Frankly, find out that there's good debt out there. I'd love to experience that. So yeah, I think that would make a fascinating subject.
You know, Bill, I think we should also, since we're starting to get some questions from people on different things they'd like, different topics they'd like covered, I'm suggesting that next week we start with maybe the last 5 minutes answering somebody's question that writes into it.
That's terrific. And I'm sure if they're watching this on YouTube, they can just leave the questions down below, right? In the comment
Yes.
section.
Yes.
All right, great. I that's a great idea. All right. Well, I guess that wraps it up for this time.
I think so.
All right. Yeah, you would know.
So
All right.
I will
thanks
see
for
you
joining
next week. I'll get off the glacier and come down and see you next week.
All right.
Okay,
Adios.
everyone.